Am I the a-hole stories? Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my mom see my 2-month-old daughter after she disowned me? I, 27 male, met my now wife, 35 male, who was a single parent with 3 kids. She was 8 years older than me, and we met when I came home. We started dating, I met her kids, and they seemed so sweet and we got along pretty well, and I felt relieved, because I was worrying too much my stepkids wouldn't like me, but I'm grateful to have met them and their mother. My mom went crazy when I told her. She started arguing a lot, telling me that marrying a single mother who's older than me wasn't going to happen. She got the whole family to agree with her, and tried pressuring me into going out with someone from the church who's nearly the same age as me. I got fed up with this, and I left after I told her no, and that I was going to get married to my now wife with or without their approval. My mom casually sent me a text the next day that she and the entire family disowned me, and that I will never be allowed to come home after that. Then everyone blocked me and refused to talk to me. My wife and I got married 2 months after I left home. We've now been married for 2 years and we have a 2-month-old baby girl. She's the only girl with 3 boys, so she was a sweet new addition to our family. Last week, I started receiving calls from a number that I didn't recognize, till I found out it was my mom. She knew that my wife and I had a baby girl and wanted to see her, saying that my daughter is her grandbaby that she has a biological connection to. I spoke with my friend who admitted telling my family about our newborn and how the whole family was excited to meet her. My sister reached out to me after I refused to let my mom visit, and told me that I was being cruel and unfair to her for not wanting her to see her grandbaby. She told me that I shouldn't forget that my daughter is family and that will never change no matter what. I got mad. I just couldn't help but get mad and argue with her, because everyone sided with my mom who disowned me and told me to not come home ever again. And now they think I'd allow my mom to see my daughter because she is family to her? They tried to set up a meeting twice, but I refused. They're calling me cruel and using my daughter to get back at my mom for personal issues we had before, completely forgetting what she did to prevent me from being with my wife. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your mother disowned you and organized the rest of the family against you, to try to prevent you from being with your wife. You don't owe her or them anything. Saying that my daughter is her grandbaby that she has a biological connection to. Funny how she wasn't concerned about her even more direct biological connection to you, her own son, when she decided to disown you. She told me that I shouldn't forget that my daughter is family and that will never change no matter what. Being family doesn't make you less of an a-hole. Also, if being family never changes no matter what, why did she decide to disown you? You can't have this both ways. Note, I personally don't think being family creates an unbreakable bond, I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy. This is one of those cases where, you reap what you sow. Your mother did this to herself. She has no right to try to blame anyone else. Exactly. She's just using this to guilt trip me into letting her see my daughter. I doubt she even wants a relationship with my wife and stepkids. I I think she's already made it abundantly clear that she doesn't want a relationship with them. I mean, she severed her relationship with you and prevented you from seeing the rest of your family, just because she didn't like your wife and your stepkids. She may have given birth to you, but you don't owe anything to anyone who treats you like this. The family part is irrelevant here. Your mother is an abusive, horrible person, and the new family you made with your wife is absolutely better off without your mother in the picture. Not the a-hole. Your mom, and family, are experiencing what I like to call the consequences of her/their actions. She disowned you, not the other way around. Has she even apologized to you for what she did? Has she apologized to your wife for the way she treated her? Why would you want someone who is going to turn their back whenever you don't follow their rules around your children? Remind your mom, sister and others that they chose to exclude you. Genetics don't entitle you to someone, they already showed that. Focus on your new daughter and your wife and your sons. Let the trash lie in the bed it made. Not the a-hole. If, after they've made it up in terms of changing their behavior and genuinely apologizing, etc., you decide to re-establish a connection, that would be one thing. But they've repeatedly shown that they have no respect for you, or your wife, your boundaries, or your life choices. Block their numbers, put the leak friend on standby, and move on with your life. Congrats on your baby. You're right, and I haven't even been able to discuss this properly with my wife, because of them constantly pressuring me and act like my daughter isn't my wife's as well. So, she gets a say too. I'm just tired of all this negativity and selfishness, and doing only what suits them. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for putting my foot down and saying my mother-in-law can't move in with us? My 31 male wife, 33 female, is an only child and extremely close with her parents. We live on opposite sides of the country from her parents, but they talk up to 4 times per day, and as far as I'm concerned, my wife acts as their remote personal assistant/shopper/accountant/tech support specialist. I've been really upfront with my wife to say I'm a bit jealous of the attention they get, as anything between my wife and I is subject to being derailed if her phone rings. My wife is sympathetic, but says she's not going to pick favorites between me and her parents. When they do visit, particularly at Christmas, they and my wife insist on them staying with us for a week in our one-bedroom condo. We've done this the last 8 years, which has actually turned into a bit of a miserable time or year for me as a result. I love my wife, so I deal with it. It's not a secret I'm not a fan of the arrangement, but I'm not interested in ruining Christmas, so I'm a good sport about it. Anyway, my father-in-law is suffering from Alzheimer's, and I have suspected that he has been for as long as I've known him, 8 years. My mother-in-law has been in complete denial about this, up until very recently, where they have just started with the process for having him placed in a care home, as his condition is quite severe. Meanwhile, the pandemic has affected my wife and I to a point it makes sense to move into a bigger place out of the city. My wife has expressed her interest, that once her dad is placed, she would like her mom to come move in with us, and so our home should have an in-law suite or other suitable accommodations. My mother-in-law can't afford to move on her own. They made some bad financial decisions and aren't able to move to a higher cost of living area. After years of being patient and respectful about this, I've finally put my foot down. And I've cited the following reasons. 1. My mother-in-law will be contributing nothing financially to this arrangement, but selecting a home with accommodations for her is both limiting our housing options. My wife and I will both have to sacrifice things we want in a home. 2. I'm extremely insecure that there will be no boundaries in this arrangement, even if they are established ahead of time. 3. I simply cannot think of a time where I shared a roof with her and felt any level of comfort, satisfaction, or enjoyment about the situation. I just can't, and the idea of committing to a long-term arrangement like that makes me completely queasy. Naturally, this hasn't gone over well. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. My wife is sympathetic but says she's not going to pick favorites between me and her parents. If she always attends to her parents' needs even at the expense of disregarding yours, she is picking favorites. Not the a-hole. Your spouse is meant to be your favorite, that's the whole point of marrying them. Seriously. I'm my husband's person, therefore his favorite person, i.e. everyone else can go F themselves, except for our doggo. Jack is up there with me. Wait. They're just going to dump him in a home and leave him on the other side of the country? That's horrible. The most appalling part of the whole story, really. Not the a-hole. Obviously, the mother/daughter trumps either spouse. OP mentioned that Phil has been showing signs for all 8 years he's known him. They've only sought treatment now. So, in all likelihood, most of the 4 times a day his wife was talking to her parents was largely spent talking to her mom. Like, that's a crazy level of codependency to maintain cross-county. Edit. Okay, wow, I'm a little speechless, but I can address a few things. My Phil won't be dumped and abandoned on the other side of the country. His situation has gotten so severe that it's urgent he be placed, but yes, they would transfer him to near wherever we ended up. Some have suggested that we look into seniors housing near where we end up for my Mil to live in. I have advocated for this, but I'm not getting any traction here. I guess I never addressed this until now because I thought that would be a perfectly reasonable compromise. Turns out it is not. We are both white. I am completely aware that these situations are typical in other cultures. That doesn't really make me feel any better, but I've thought about it from this lens. I'm not an only child. Both my parents are alive and we have a good relationship. They also live in another part of the country. I haven't seen them in 8 years at Christmas time, because it's so important to my wife and her family. Trying not to come across as a martyr here, but I legitimately care that my wife is happy even if I don't completely understand it. I've now learned about enmeshment, thanks for that. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for demanding to know if my mother-in-law called my daughter stupid and therefore bringing more attention to it? My mother-in-law doesn't like me, but she is very good at being passive-aggressive and none of the men in the family can see it. Well, actually I think father-in-law does, because I occasionally see them exchanging looks, but he seems to think it is cute and dear husband is just clueless. I have a 17-year-old daughter who mother-in-law has never paid much attention to. Her excuse is, all women are close to their daughter's children. We were at their house last night and all of the women were in the kitchen and the topic of weddings and first meetings came up, and my sister-in-law said, she loves how her parents met, which I'd never heard before, but apparently, he was looking for a wife, they were in a different country at the time, and decided he wanted her, though he had never spoken to her. He went over to her and asked her to stand up and he measured her because he had a certain maximum height. He asked if she wanted to get married and she said no, but one of her friends whispered about who he was, so she changed her mind. He said they could get married if she never wore those shoes again. So she took them off and gave them to him, and he snapped the heel off. They are actually happy, but WTF? My daughter found that story offensive and asked if mother-in-law truly didn't mind being dehumanized, and Mill rolled her eyes and said something about the new generation. My daughter continued that measuring her is really creepy because she is a person, not a livestock. Sil told her to calm down. He clearly was looking for a trophy wife, so it isn't that different. My daughter wanted to know if she was really okay with it, and how doesn't she have gross feelings about it. My mother-in-law said, "It's so sad your mom raised you to think with no worldview, no perspective. The world must be so boring to you." I asked what she meant by that, and Mill didn't reply, so I demanded to know if she was calling my daughter stupid. She didn't deny it, she just rolled her eyes. Now my husband is annoyed, because he said she didn't say that and our daughter was being culturally insensitive. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Unless I'm missing something, she's insulting you and your daughter. That being said, I think confronting Mill won't change her views. Unfortunately, if it's anything like my family, they likely grew up with the culture being normalized, and to challenge that will likely offend them if not done carefully. It's more important that you continue to communicate to your daughter that Mill and others like her harbor an unhealthy worldview. At 17, it seems clear she understands there was a problem with what Mill was saying. So it's good to know she's following in your footsteps rather than hers. I don't envy your relationship with Mill. Wishing you the best. Your Mill seems pretty happy with being dehumanized, so just let her be proud of that dumb thing. As for you, be proud that you've raised such a wonderful daughter who won't take crap like that lightly. She truly is amazing for a 17-year-old, and her future spouse would be very lucky to have her, and you as their Mill. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your 17-year-old daughter clearly has a better worldview than your Mill. That story was gross, and she really was just being treated like livestock. Good for you for defending your daughter for being a smart, empowered young woman, and further, more kudos for doing so in front of her and teaching her to hold her ground. Your husband should take a lesson from your book. It's really sad to see that Mill does not realize that she is literally being dehumanized in that situation. Like, is that how the old generation works? Seems like the new generations know better, I guess. This woman needs to know how to move on to the 21st century. Furthermore, your daughter is expressing concerns for Mill, and I honestly shocked that she replied with an insult to her face. All women are closer to their daughters' children. Now that's what I call having no worldview and perspective. Not the a-hole op. Continue standing up for your daughter. Do not let Mill get away with her harsh words. And that's it for this video, guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. Turn the notification on to get updated on my latest posts. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day, everyone.